After weeks on the dusty trail, eating hardtack and sleeping under the stars, there was nothing a cowboy wanted more than a night inside a Wild West saloon. Cold drinks, warm company, and a card game that might just double his pay. But if you're picturing swinging doors, a handsome piano player, and a dramatic shootout before midnight, Hollywood has been lying to you for about 100 years. Today, we're exploring what it was actually like to spend a single night inside a Wild West saloon, hour by hour, from the moment you walked through the door to the moment you stumbled out. But before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to Dusty Legends and let us know in the comments. What would be the first thing you'd order at a Wild West bar? Alright, wipe your boots off. We're going in. Let's set the scene. It's 1882. You've just ridden into Dodge City, Kansas after 3 weeks on a cattle drive. You're sunburned, saddle sore, and you smell like a horse that lost a fight with a mud pit. You push through the front door of the Long Branch Saloon, and immediately, the smell hits you. Tobacco spit, stale beer, unwashed bodies, and sawdust. Bar owners spread it across the floor to soak up whatever got spilled. Most saloons were nothing like what you've seen in the movies. Forget the grand chandeliers and polished wooden bars. The average frontier saloon was a small, dark, smoky room with low ceilings, a couple of oil lamps, and a long wooden plank propped up on 2 barrels that passed for a bar. And don't look for a bar stool. They didn't exist. You either stood at the bar or sat at one of the rickety tables scattered around the room. Along the front of the bar hung communal towels for wiping beer foam off your mustache. These towels were almost never washed. They were basically petri dishes with handles. Some of the more charming establishments even displayed signs that read, "If you spit on the floor at home, spit on the floor here. We want you to feel at home." Imagine the divviest dive bar you've ever been to. Now remove the health inspector, the fire exits, and any concept of personal hygiene. Welcome to your Wild West saloon. Now you're at the bar and you need a drink. You signal the bartender and ask for whiskey. Simple enough, right? Not exactly. What passed for whiskey in the Old West was often raw, unaged grain alcohol doctored up with whatever the barkeep had lying around. We're talking tobacco juice, cayenne pepper, burnt sugar, and in some cases, actual gunpowder. Some bartenders even dropped a rattlesnake head into the barrel for flavor. Cowboys had a whole vocabulary for this stuff. They called it Taos lightning, coffin varnish, skull bender, and my personal favorite, tanglefoot. You didn't sip this whiskey, you survived it. If whiskey wasn't your thing, you could order beer, but don't expect a cold one. There was no refrigeration on the frontier, so your beer arrived warm and flat, shipped in wooden barrels from the nearest brewery, which might be hundreds of miles away. Prices varied wildly depending on where you were drinking. A shot of whiskey might cost you 5 cents in Kansas, but 50 cents in a remote mining camp in the Yukon. 10 times the price, same questionable quality. Fancier saloons actually had skilled bartenders who mixed cocktails. These men earned the title professor or mixologist and were held in high regard. One famous mixologist was James Earp, yes, Wyatt Earp's brother. He ran a saloon in Wichita and reportedly sent satisfied customers along to a nearby brothel operated by his wife. Now that's what you call a family business. Bottoms up, if you dared. A couple of drinks in, and your eyes drift to the gambling tables. Here's where most cowboys spent the bulk of their evening and the bulk of their money. Now, if you think poker was the king of Wild West card games, think again. The most popular game in frontier saloons was actually Faro, a fast-paced card game imported from Europe. It was simple to learn, the odds were better than most games, and rounds moved quickly, which meant more action and more chances to win, or lose. The dealer called the banker, laid out 13 cards on the table. Players placed their bets, and the dealer flipped 2 cards, one for himself, one for the players. If your card matched, you won. If the dealer's matched, you lost. It was basically the slot machine of the 1880s, fast, addictive, and designed to separate you from your cash. Poker existed too, of course, alongside 3-card Monte and roulette in the fancier joints. But no matter what game you played, the house usually won. Cheating was rampant. Marked cards, loaded dice, and rigged roulette wheels. Getting caught cheating could earn you anything from a black eye to a bullet. As one Montana cowboy explained, "When I would get into a town, I wanted to have a good time. I usually took a few drinks and sometimes got into a game of poker, and generally left town broke. At least he was honest about it." Gambling wasn't the only way to pass the time. As the evening wore on, saloons came alive with entertainment, though maybe not the kind you'd expect. Some saloons had a piano player banging out tunes in the corner, but plenty didn't. What many saloons did have were dance hall girls, also called hurdy-gurdy girls, hired to dance with lonely cowboys for 25 to 75 cents a dance. The catch? You were expected to buy drinks for your dancing partner between songs. The barkeep got a cut, the girl got a cut, and you got lighter pockets and sore feet. Beyond the official entertainment, the saloon was where stories were born, and wildly exaggerated. Cowboys, miners, and drifters traded tall tales about gunfights they'd survived, outlaws they'd met, and fortunes they'd almost made. The saloon was essentially Netflix, Tinder, and a comedy club rolled into one smoky room, all for the price of a few drinks and your dignity. By this point in the evening, the whiskey is flowing, tempers are rising, and someone at the faro table just accused someone else of cheating. Here's where we need to bust another Hollywood myth. Full-blown gunfights inside saloons were actually rare. Most saloon violence was fistfights and drunken brawls, arguments over cards, over women, or just because two drunk men decided they didn't like the way the other one was breathing. And here's a fact that might surprise you. Many frontier towns actually had strict gun control laws. In Dodge City, Tombstone, and Abilene, carrying firearms within town limits was illegal. Cowboys were required to check their guns at the sheriff's office or at the edge of town when they rode in. In fact, this is exactly what triggered the most famous gunfight in Western history. The gunfight at the OK Corral happened in part because the Earps were trying to enforce Tombstone's weapons ban against a group of cowboys who refused to disarm. The shootout that launched 1,000 movies was basically a gun control dispute. When violence did break out inside a saloon, it was messy, chaotic, and over fast. Bartenders kept shotguns behind the bar as the preferred peacekeeping tool. Nothing settles an argument quite like a 12-gauge pointed at your chest. So much for the land of the free-for-all. If you survived the night, and that was never guaranteed, you'd wake up in one of three places: upstairs in a rented room, slumped over a table, or in the gutter outside with empty pockets and a headache that felt like a horse kicked you in the skull. The hangover from frontier whiskey was legendary. Remember, this stuff had gunpowder in it. Your head pounded, your stomach turned, and you counted whatever money you had left, which, if the faro table got you, wasn't much. But by morning, the saloon was already filling up again. Some never closed. You dust yourself off, splash some water on your face, and make a decision: ride out of town, or belly up to the bar for round two. The walk of shame, except you were carrying a hangover, $0, and the faint smell of sawdust and tobacco spit. And that was just Monday. So, could you survive a night in a Wild West saloon? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of our other videos about life on the American frontier.